Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're digging into some really profound source material you sent over. It's a theological discourse, and our goal here is to cut through, all the history and the noise surrounding Jesus the Messiah.
That's right. We want to understand who he truly was based on these texts and look at the kind of, divine glory he actually revealed. It wasn't what people expected.
Definitely not. So let's start with that core idea, Messiah. Morsiah, the anointed one, often translated Savior or Christ. Where did this specific expectation even come from? It wasn't always there, was it?
No, not from the very beginning like Genesis. That's crucial. The intense hope for a Messiah, it really emerged out of desperation, specifically after the northern kingdom was destroyed and then the southern kingdom was exiled.
So total national crisis, lost their land, their temple, everything.
Exactly. Hope was at rock bottom. And in that despair, they started looking for a restorer.
Okay, but why a king? Why not, say, a great prophet or a priest? Why this focus on political, almost military leadership?
Because their idea of restoration was tied to their strongest memory of national greatness, which was King David. He was the warrior king, the peak of their power.
Not Solomon.
No, interestingly, Solomon's reign, with all the wealth and foreign alliances, and frankly, the later idolatry that was seen as leading to the kingdom's split in weakness. They wanted David back, strong, independent.
And fast forward to the time these gospel accounts are set, like Matthew 17, they're under Roman occupation. That's hundreds of years after David.
Right, so that existing hope for Davidic king gets massively amplified by the current oppression. They desperately wanted someone to, overthrow the Roman government. It was very political.
They weren't just looking for spiritual comfort. They wanted liberation here and now.
Precisely. And the wider culture didn't help clarify things either.
Ah, the Roman and Greek influence. Rome had the power, but Greek culture, Greek ideas were everywhere.
Absolutely, and that meant polytheism. The Zeus, Venus, Apollo, gods who were powerful, sure, but also very human-like in their squabbles and dramas.
Right. Gods you could sort of understand, maybe appease, but not like the unique concept of the God of Israel.
Exactly. Which brings us to Paul in Athens. Remember that story? He's trying to introduce this one, unique God.
In a city full of idols, how did he even start?
Well, the source mentions that brilliant moment with the altar to the unknown God. He didn't just tear down their beliefs. He used it. He basically said, "You're very religious. I see that. You even worship a God you don't know. Let me tell you about him."
And identifies that God as the resurrected Jesus.
Yes. And the reaction? Some laughed, some were curious. It just shows how countercultural this idea of one God, especially a resurrected, suffering one, really was.
Yeah.
They understood glory as power. Maybe godly drama, not this.
Okay, so against that backdrop of expectation, military king, powerful but maybe capricious gods, Jesus does something completely different to define his mission, the transfiguration.
Yes, up the mountain with Peter, James, and John. And the description is stunning. His face shone like the sun, his clothes became dazzling white, like pure light.
Undeniable glory.
Undeniable. But here's the absolute key insight from the source material. It's not just that he was glorious, it's how. Despite this blinding light, the disciples could still approach him, recognize him. He was distinguishable.
Approachable glory, that is different.
It's a fundamental shift.
Yeah.
And the source draws a direct contrast with Moses on Mount Sinai.
Okay, walk us through that comparison. Moses receiving the law.
Right. Exodus 34.
Yeah.
Moses is up there 40 days, 40 nights, fasting, communing with God. When he comes down, his face is also shining. But crucially, it's reflected glory, God's glory bouncing off him.
And the people's reaction.
Pure fear. They couldn't bear to look at him. They were terrified, found it totally unapproachable, begged him to wear a veil.
Because that kind of divine presence felt dangerous, like you could be struck down.
Exactly. Remember Joshua? Moses' second in command. He had to stay below the summit, guarding the perimeter. Keep people away from the holy mountain lest they die. That glory enforced distance, authority through separation.
So, Moses and the law represent God as sort of a high king, setting strict rules, maintaining distance. Holiness means separation.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
It represents that era of law with its necessary standards and, yes, it's a certain fear. But Jesus, at the Transfiguration, ushers in the era of grace. His glory is inherent, it's his own, it doesn't fade, and yet
It's approachable.
it's approachable, recognizable.
Huh.
Like a father or a good friend, the source says. The disciples weren't struck down, they were invited in. It reframes divine glory as relational, not just powerful.
That shift is huge, from terror to invitation.
It changes everything about how you relate to God. Authority is now rooted in love and closeness, not just rules and distance. That's the new covenant foundation being laid right there.
Okay, now let's look at who else was there on the mountain. It wasn't just Jesus and the 3 disciples.
No, incredibly, Moses and Elijah appear.
The 2 giants of the Old Testament, why them specifically?
Their presence is hugely significant. First, the source notes they came to Jesus. He didn't go to them. That establishes the hierarchy right away. Jesus is the central figure.
Okay, and their roles. Moses represents.
Moses is the lawgiver, the man of God, as he's called. He led the Exodus, received the 10 Commandments, the Torah. He embodies God's revealed word. God spoke, and it was. Moses is that word made manifest in the law.
The foundation of God's covenant relationship. And Elijah.
Elijah's different. He represents God's power, raw, miraculous power in action. He wasn't like, say, Jeremiah, the weeping prophet who mainly spoke truth and suffered for it. Elijah was dynamic.
The confrontation with King Ahab and Jezebel.
Exactly. Defeating the 850 prophets of Baal on Mount Carmel, calling down fire from heaven. He embodies God's ability to intervene dramatically in the world, not just the written word, but divine action.
So you have the word Moses and the power, Elijah, the pillars of the Old Testament.
Both appearing with Jesus, essentially validating him as the fulfillment of both the law and the prophets. It's a convergence.
And the source adds this really fascinating detail about their relationship with death. It's quite memorable.
Yes, it's a striking point. These 3 figures have unique connections to mortality. Moses lived to 120, died, but his burial place is unknown. Deliberately unknown, the text implies, so it couldn't become a shrine.
No pilgrimage to Moses' tomb.
Right. Then Elijah, even more unique, he never died. He was taken up to heaven in a whirlwind with a fiery chariot. Like Enoch before him, he bypassed death entirely.
Okay, so unknown grave, no death, and Jesus.
Jesus died, was buried in a known tomb, but then resurrected 3 days later, leaving that tomb empty.
Wow. So the witnesses are one whose death is hidden, one who escaped death, and the one who conquers death.
It's incredibly symbolic. It connects the law and the prophets directly to Jesus' ultimate victory over death, which is central to his messianic role.
Which leads to the absolute core of this event. What were they actually talking about up there? If this is the big reveal of glory, with Moses and Elijah present, you'd expect.
Military strategy, plans to overthrow Rome, how to claim the throne.
Exactly, that's what everyone was waiting for.
But no, the source is explicit. They weren't discussing political glory or kingship at all.
What then?
They were discussing Jesus' impending suffering.
Yeah.
His departure, which the source clarifies means his suffering and death that he was about to accomplish in Jerusalem.
Wait, at the very peak of his revealed glory, the conversation is about suffering. That seems utterly paradoxical. It flies in the face of every expectation of what a Messiah should be doing.
It's the central paradox. How can glory and suffering coexist? Especially when glory was understood as power and success, suffering looked like failure.
So why reveal the glory at that moment only to talk about something that seems like the opposite?
Because God was redefining glory itself. The source suggests the glory was shown precisely because Jesus was embracing this path of suffering. It was God's validation. Unlike Moses' reflected temporary light, this inherent permanent glory shone on Jesus as he accepted the necessity of sacrifice.
The glory confirms the difficult path rather than negating it.
Exactly. It validates the mission, which wasn't political conquest, but redemption through sacrifice.
This really connects to Jesus' identity as the Son of Man, doesn't it? Especially how John emphasizes it in his gospel.
Yes, absolutely. Son of Man signifies God taking on human form, the incarnation, the word becoming flesh, logos. John wrote his gospel much later, maybe in his 90s.
So he had perspective. He saw how people misunderstood.
Right. He wanted to make it crystal clear. Jesus didn't come to be an earthly king, chasing worldly riches or political power. That hope the shepherds might have felt, hearing the angels sing, "Glory to God, peace on earth."
They probably thought, great, peace means Rome is gone.
That was the common hope. John corrects that. The peace, the glory, the salvation, it comes through sacrifice, not conquest. The transfiguration wasn't prepping for a coronation. It was God affirming the path to the cross.
So let's bring this home for someone listening today. We've gone from this expectation of a distant, rule-based God represented by Moses to this incredibly intimate, approachable God revealed in Jesus, the Lord of grace. That's the good news. The terror is gone. The invitation is open. We can draw near. But that approachable king, the one full of grace and glory, his path wasn't about worldly success or avoiding pain.
And that's the challenge, isn't it? The source leaves us with this powerful thought: if you truly look up to this Jesus, the one revealed in glory discussing his suffering, what does that mean for how you follow?
It means understanding that faith isn't just about basking in reflected glory or expecting an easy ride.
It means recognizing that his path involved sacrifice. The source points directly to Jesus' own words later: pick up your cross. That has to be part of a real grounded faith, not demanding the conquering hero, but being willing to follow the suffering, glorious king.
Embracing the paradox, glory through sacrifice. That's definitely something to reflect on.